Okay, in the last video clip, I introduced three forms of power. And then in this one, I will introduce the last one, that is the soft power. And above all, this is the most important form of power, you can say, form of power in the 21st century. It's because nowadays it's unimaginable for you, the outbreak of war in many so-called security communities, as I taught you in the last lecture, that is about constructivism. Even outside some so-called security community, in other areas, it is very hard for you to imagine that a state will use military force to force another state to do something, to accomplish, to satisfy its demands. For instance, you cannot imagine the United States will say shoot a number of 100 missiles at China and force China to sign the trade deal. Impossible. So, because military force is not that reliable and not that important policy option in nowadays world, there is a decline of hard power. And then, so military power or traditional hard power is not that important nowadays in international relations, in international negotiation. Then, what form of power is more important in nowadays? It's called soft power. This form, he is Joseph Nye. He's the one who introduced soft power, this concept. Joseph Nye, yes, Joseph Nye here. This is his name, Joseph Nye. He introduced this concept, soft power. Traditionally, hard power is so-called command power. That is through the use of inducements or threats. That is carrots or sticks. That is, okay, if you follow me, then I will give you a lot of benefits. Say, China, maybe like Pakistan, if they join, or let's say WHO, because WHO implements some policies that China welcome. So China may donate a lot of money to WHO. This is called inducement, carrots and sticks. For instance, like Hong Kong or Taiwan, or Taiwan nowadays, because Taiwan elects Tsai Ing-wen as Taiwan's this president, and then China hates Tsai Ing-wen, so China sent a lot of jets to fly surrounding the island, as a form of threat that, okay, if you Taiwanese still continue to support the Democratic Progressive Party and Tsai Ing-wen and her pro-independence, Taiwan independence stance, then one day I may invade Taiwan as a kind of fact. This is hard power, very traditional form of power. That is the power traditionally we think about this. As it's like daily life, like nowadays, even me, if I encourage you to do your homework well, assignment well, and your presentation well, I give you some inducements. Say I give you high marks, and also I would like you to hand in your assignment on time. So I give you facts. If you don't hand in time, then sorry about that, I will fail you or give you some score deduction. This is traditional hard power. Some soft power is called cooperative power. You want, it's introduce you, it's a form of power to attract you. It's from attraction rather than coercion. Attract you to follow my agenda, to shape the preference of you, to shape the preference of others. or to shape the preference of others. That's it. Maybe some of attraction. Say, if not, I do not teach you. Maybe I employ a charming, a pretty female teacher to teach you. Then I use this method to attract your attention on the content of this course. So attract you to learn well in this course. Then I use this kind of so-called soft power. That's when very crazy, of course very crazy, but example of soft power. Usually the source of soft power is culture, political values, or foreign policies. Like why in today's world, now China and United States are near the brink of so-called new Cold War, and United States always try to ask countries around the world to take side, whether you follow China or follow USA, and many of them follow USA. Why? Because of its culture, of the Hollywood movie. They like Hollywood movies, so they like the lifestyle in America. And also culture, one form of culture is education. They took their undergraduate or postgraduate course in the Harvard University and all universities in America. So this is kind of cultural attraction. They attract to American values, and then they attract to American political values like democracy, like liberty. And also foreign policy, like they support American promotion of democracy in different parts of the world. So it is a soft power, so that, okay, they think that American is a good, or later on in the next video I will talk about this, so-called benevolent or good power, a benevolent hegemony. So it's okay for United States to dominate the world. So you follow United States, the soft power. Then sometimes there's a combination of soft and hard power. It's a soft, smart power. What is best example of smart power? In fact, United States use smart power to force China, sometimes attract and sometimes force China to follow the international rules, or rules laid down, or I would say later, Western order. That is the order laid down by the United States. He, Donald Trump, sometimes be friend with Xi Jinping to attract them to cooperate with the United States. Sometimes but at the same time, United States station a lot of armies near the Asian Pacific region, so that, okay, I be friend with you, and ask China to follow the Western order. If you have any boundary conflicts with other states in the region, then negotiate about the conflict. However, on the other hand, you know that if you don't use peaceful methods to settle some boundary conflicts, then there are lots of forces in the region. You say forces in the region. If you say wage a war against Taiwan, Philippines, or Vietnam, then these forces will help Taiwan, Philippines, or Vietnam is not a formal ally, like Japan. Okay. Why soft? This is smart power. Both soft and hard power used at the same time. Then why power shift from hard to soft power? One of the main reasons because of the interdependence and interconnectedness of people. Nowadays we are in a closer world. We travel around quite often, and we have content with different parts of the world. We have friends living in different parts of the world. So it's easier for us to form a judgment about the culture and values of other states. And this sort of culture and values can reflect in the policy of a state. Say, why nowadays, like Japan, like United States, would pass some laws that help Hong Kong protesters, because they, through the television, through the media, through internet, they know what happened in Hong Kong. And also they have friends in Hong Kong. So they tell them, Hong Kong, there are some kind of large-scale violation of human rights happening in Hong Kong. So they force their government to do something. That's why soft power is very important, because nowadays many parts of the world are democracies, or even not democracy. Even like Russia, the government heavily depends on the will. Heavily need to take into account. They need to seriously take into account of the will of ordinary citizens. Their will in forming foreign policies. And also there is an improvement in literacy levels and education standard. So people can make a judgment. And that's spread of democracy. So spread of democracy make people have a bigger say in foreign policy. In the past, foreign policy is so-called the high-level politics. Then ordinary people have no say about this kind of high foreign international relations issues. Nowadays, ordinary people have their say in foreign international relations issues. So it is very important for state to launch a so-called soft power policy campaign to win the hearts and minds of citizens, residents of other parts of the world. You have to use hard power strategies, and it will lose the hearts and minds of ordinary citizens in other parts of the world. Say, why not this people, Americans, support their government to launch the trade war against China, to ban Huawei, to invest in the construction of 5G networks in America. One of the main reasons is because China used hard power strategies to suppress the Hong Kong protest. So they knew that from the media, from the internet, from television, that China's tactics in Hong Kong lost the hearts and minds of Americans. And then Americans simply decide that this is not a good idea. Simply, the American then hate Chinese government very much and support the government to execute some heavy-handed measures, that is coercive measure, against China. Okay, soft power, hard power. So hard power is punishment and reward. Soft power is attraction and identification. And then smart power is the combination of hard and soft. Use these two forms of power at the same time. Okay, then world order. World order usually, a world order in a particular period of time is named by the number of power centers exist in that period. There are usually three forms of world system. The first one is multipolar system. Second one is bipolar system. And the third one is unipolar system. Multipolar system because it's a system in which there are three or more power centers in that system. Or let's say 3 or 4 poles. There are usually 3 or 4 or more great powers in that system. This kind of system, according to Leo Wheeler's, is quite unstable, and the likelihood of outbreak of war is quite high, because this system is, the characteristics of this system is uncertainty. The best example of multipolar system is the First World War Europe. There are multiple systems. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 great powers in this system, or 5 and 2 half. 2 half is Italy and Ottoman Empire. Then, as I mentioned in lecture 1, why the conflict between Austria-Hungary with this Serbia will lead to the whole Europe, the all Europe war wide, because uncertainty. Austria-Hungary was not certain whether Austria will invade Austria-Hungary. Germany was not assured whether France will join Russia to invade it, or Germany was not assured whether Britain would join France and Russia to invade Germany. So Germany have to take some so-called preemptive strike, that is 先發制人, to attack France and Russia at the same time, in order to prevent them to attack him. Quite ridiculous. German fear is being attacked by France and Russia at the same time. However, in order to ensure this fear disappear, German take an preemptive strike to strike first, so as to prevent France and Russia have the chance to attack it. So this kind of uncertainty lead to instability in this system and the likelihood of outbreak of war in this system. Bipolar system is a system in which there are only 2 poles, 2 major powers. That is the best example is Cold War system. There are 2 great powers. The 2 great powers are Russia and here, the Warsaw camp and Communist camp led by Russia, or not at that time it's not Russia, Soviet Union, and the capitalist camp led by Americans. This is so-called bipolar system. Bipolar system, these 2 powers is military power is quite close, usually quite close. And see, sometimes American, this blue in color is capitalist camp, red in color is communist camp. In some aspects, the capitalist camp, the red camp, the capitalist camp is superior, but in other aspects, the capitalist camp was superior. So generally, they are equal, the military power. Because of this is one of the main reasons why this is stable and relatively peaceful in this system. Because no one camp can for sure that they win the war. I tell you that later in the next lecture, I will teach you the rational war theory. In fact, the most rational reason for 2 states to engage in war is because both sides consider that they have a chance to win. In this system, like in the multipolar system, because Germany think that they can win France and Russia at the same time, so Germany waged war against France and Russia at the same time. However, in bipolar system, of course, the size of military is roughly equal between the 2 sides. So both sides have no confidence to win the war. And then there's nuclear war. And you know that when Russia attacked United States will retaliate by shooting nuclear missiles at Russia. Then the nuclear missiles, I will talk about this, I think, 2 to 3, maybe 2 weeks later. Maybe next week. Maybe next week I'll talk about nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons is there's a term called the use of nuclear weapons, called mutually assured destruction. That is, use of nuclear weapons. Both sides will face heavy death toll or even total destruction. If both sides wage war against another, they must face total destruction because both sides have nuclear weapon. So this nuclear weapon avoid the direct military conflict between core members of the two camps, such as Russia, American, or Russia, American, France, or Britain. However, there's a proxy war, 代理人戰爭 proxy wars. Some wars in marginal areas in the two camps, like in the Vietnam areas, in Korean areas. Marginal areas like the two Iraq or Iran-Iraq war in China is called 兩伊戰爭, Iran-Iraq war. They are members of two camps. Okay, then nowadays we enter a so-called post-World Cold War order. That is the order exists after the disintegration of Soviet Union. Then, of course, this is a unipolar system. I'll talk about unipolar system more specifically in the next video clip. But what is the characteristics? First of all, it's the reliance of international institutions. It's because nowadays we have a lot of cross-border trading, cross-border contacts, say, and then easily some global governance institutions to deal with this kind of issues that happen, not limited to one state, but affect the whole world due to the increase in the connection between different parts of the world. Say, in the past, this kind of epidemic like COVID-19 or Wuhan SARS, Wuhan virus, 200 years ago, because just a few people will travel around different parts of the world. So even there's an outbreak of, say, the Black Death, 鼠疫, in different parts of the world, this kind of epidemic can hardly travel to different parts of the world because they just limited one part of the world. Because people who were affected by this disease seldom went to another part of the world. But nowadays, the outbreak of this is like AIDS, like SARS, like this COVID-19. Can easily spread to different parts of the world because people travel around different parts of the world, spread this disease. So we need some global governance institutions. The most important one, of course, is WHO to tackle this problem. And secondly, there's a dominance of Western-led global order. What is Western-led global order? Is that we nowadays, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, we need some global institutions to govern cross-border connection, cross-border conflict, like or cross-border international issues, because of the increase in interconnection between different parts of the world. Then these institutes usually are governed by some rules or even personnel derived from the Western part of the world. Say the IMF. I'll introduce IMF later, International Monetary Fund, which is an institute to regulate international finance. You see, all the managing directors come from Europe, and all of them come from Western Europe. Except this one. This is the latest one, the surfing one, the sitting managing director. Even he is not. He's the first Eastern European to take up this post, but this state Bulgaria is still a member of European Union, so it's still in European Union. So you see, this kind of international institutions are usually dominated by Western values, say use of democracy, use of rules of laws to govern this institution, as well as even personnel that dominated by Westerners. WHO is very special. Nowadays, WHO, it is this organization was now governed by an African and governed by non-Western value, but from the Chinese value, very special, WHO. Okay, unipolar system. I will finish by teaching you unipolar system. Unipolar system is that, of course, United States, the only superpower, have global reach. China or Russia somehow have some global reach, but not as far reach as United States. It's strictly limited. Chinese and the influence of Chinese and Russia strictly limited. This hegemony poses some kind of structural power, like a lot of economic and military resources. Like there are lots of military bases in different parts of the world, and then international organization. All of the important United Nations United Nations organizations are funded by U.S. So this organization must follow U.S. and U.S. have military bases in different parts of the world. So no state dare to no state can dare to directly attack U.S. directly launch military attack against U.S. because they must face the retaliation from U.S. immediately. And then because of its domination of different international organizations, U.S. can shape the preference and action of other states. Nowadays the WHO have to proclaim the COVID-19 as a global epidemic. In the past, they don't want to do so because the WHO, the Secretary General of WHO, did not want to anger China. So for a very long period of time, the WHO General Secretary did not want to proclaim this COVID-19 as a world epidemic, 全球大流行. But now he do so. Why? Because Donald Trump, the United States, threatened to cut its funding or even stop the funding. And according to Gramsci terms, this hegemony really have some ideational and ideological leadership. The best example is United States. All parts of the world. Like in nowadays, China and United States, this struggle, like the sanction of Huawei. In fact, sanctioning Huawei, this action violates the free trade principle. However, there's lots of countries around the globe followed U.S. instruction to sanction Huawei. Why? Because U.S. has ideological leadership. U.S. tell other states, allies that Huawei is dangerous to the world. So other states somehow follow. Even like Britain, this state don't want to seriously follow them, but so somehow follow. That is to restrict the Huawei involvement in the construction of 5G network in the United States. It's because of U.S. leadership. Okay, see you next clip.